Hello, everybody, and happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining our Instagram Live today. We've got a really exciting one for you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shaylin Griffin, and I am the Director of Partnerships and Studio Development at Armstrong Acting Studios. Today's chat is really exciting. We're going to be talking about a new type of training that we've got this summer at AAS, led exclusively by our Artistic Director Susanna Fournier, who I'm going to be bringing on in just a second. And she's going to dive deep into what this new type of training is. And it's quite different from our typical core acting training, which is going to be really exciting. And as an actor, I'm just going to leave you with, if you've ever felt blocked or stuck or like something is missing in your work, or you just need to bring in that spontaneity and play, which I think everybody does, then these are definitely for you. So I'm going to invite Susanna in here now. Today. Okay, I think she is joining here. Hi, Susanna.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. Just gonna turn my volume up here. There we go.
Perfect. Okay, so basically we'll just dive right into what this new type of training is that we've got coming in the summer. I'm really excited to let everybody know what exactly these are, and you're the best person to do that with because you have created them and you're leading them. So Susanna, could you just bring us through what exactly are these summer jams?
Well, the summer jams came out of really a need that I saw in all of the training of actors that I do here at the studio, and just seeing that a lot of actors were getting kind of frustrated in like channeling so much scene study, like doing so many scenes, so much scene work, like really using the cinematic frame, but that time and time again actors would come up against like their own personal blocks or habits, or like moments where they're like, I know what the scene needs, I just don't know how to get there. And maybe feeling on the spot, or like there wasn't enough time, or they would not ask a question like how, well, one that I get a lot is like, how do I access tears in my work? Like, I know that I need to be pushing the emotional vulnerability. I know that the scene requires like a greater sense of loss for the character, and then just feeling like they couldn't do that, or they couldn't do that up on the mark, right, in front of the camera. They're like, when I'm at home, right, I hear this all the time. When I'm at home in my room, I can do it.
Yeah.
And
all the time, always happens.
all the time, right? Like, and that's great if we're going to shoot the project in your living room. But like you're never going to be in the best case conditions like that, where you feel totally comfortable, totally relaxed. So I started to just see a lot of trends in actors, whether it be accessing like vulnerability, authentic emotional cost, whether it was occupying characters of like a high status position or a low status position and feeling uncomfortable, whether it was about getting angry, like using their full voice, that they just felt a little hemmed in, and like they didn't have enough tools to explore how to open up their range. So I created summer jams mostly because I was seeing that a lot of actors at every level of training were encountering different blocks or different like plateaus in their work. And so I wanted to create some training that was going to focus directly on some of those really personal areas of our work where we're not as confident, or we know that it's a challenge, it's hard for us to get mad, or, a lot of actors I work with are like, well, I'm a really nice person, so like I don't want to yell, I don't want to be mean like this. And it's like, well, I'm glad that you're a nice person, but like in this scene, does that
Yeah.
bad guy? Like, does that, like how and just feeling like blocked, essentially, like a lot of actors being like, I know what I'm trying to do, I don't know how to do it.
Yep.
um,
Yep.
and sometimes we need to step aside from the scene and actually not work on trying to get the product right, and to actually go into look more closely at this block and look at how can I free myself up inside of my process. So I wanted the jams to be a chance for us to take the emphasis less, move the emphasis from applied scene study, text analysis, units, all the technique that we need to learn to pull off a compelling performance. I wanted to shift away from product and look more at like, what is our process and where are some areas that our process is maybe not helping us achieve the breadth of what we're trying to do as actors. So I wanted to call it Summer Jams because the feeling of like a jam, whether it's musicians getting together to jam or improvise or a bunch of people just like, let's go shoot some hoops. But like, there's a spontaneity, there's an impulsiveness to like just trying stuff. Like, I'm just going to go jam out an idea. So that really became the inspiration, is like, let's create a playground, an experiment where we're just jamming on stuff, whether that's high status or jamming on how do I play aggression or how do I play, what does my physicality do in the frame? So it's coming with like, we're coming to class with a spirit of experimentation and a spirit specifically around trying things, and sometimes applying that to a scene, but that's not the goal, is to not like execute a perfect audition or create like I have done the scene, so that's
Yeah.
that's really the kind of Cole's Notes version of the summer jams.
I love that. Yeah, that's very exciting. And I think it's so easy as actors to kind of get caught up in, oh, what does the casting director want? Or what does my instructor want to see here? And we kind of lose the ability to just kind of feel it within ourselves. We're just kind of, trying to put forward the product, like you said.
Mhm.
So, yeah, this is all very, very exciting. Um, I know I had kind of touched on a little bit before I had brought you on here, Susanna, and you touched on it a bit too, but how would you say these differ from our typical core training that we have at the studio? The typical, text analysis, like you said, and partnered scene work and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think it's expanding on the moments that we are doing in our core training when we're looking at a scene. Let's say we're looking at a scene that explores like high vulnerable, like high emotional cost, a lot of grief, let's say, right? And so,
Yeah.
we're really in our core training looking at how do we do the most thorough text analysis? How do we pull as much information from the scene as possible to create the structure of a performance in which the character changes from the beginning of the scene to the end, in which we're hitting those turning points in the plot. We're looking at unit shifts. We're figuring out the right body language to convey relationship. We're figuring out our tactics. We're figuring out what we want. A lot of our core training is just about the repetition of getting more skilled in how we analyze a scene and we create and turn that information into a playable, alive, compelling performance. And so there's a lot of emphasis on that technique, on the technique of interpretation. And inside of that, we'll hit these moments where we start to have a question of like, okay, but I actually don't know how to do that. Like, I don't know how to turn this stage direction of like, she collapses at her husband's fallen body and sobs.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's what happened. Her husband's been shot, and this story is telling me I need to collapse and sob. I don't know how to do that, right? Or I'm scared to do that. Or like, I don't want to do that and be overacting, or I can't actually cry, or it feels fake, right?
Yeah. You're just doing it just because it's in the stage direction.
Yeah, or we feel like
Yeah.
do it that way, or like how, we get into this like, do I have to do exactly what the stage direction says,
Yeah.
or yeah, it makes sense. Her husband was shot, like she's gonna feel something big.
Yeah.
But there's a fear around, I've never felt something like that, or I've never been in that situation, right? So this Summer Jams is looking at, great, that's what the scene is inviting us to do. How do we approach that? if that feels foreign to us, if that feels really scary, if that feels like, oh, it feels fake, I don't know, I'm shutting down, I'm not emotional. How do we approach high emotional states? Um, how do we do that from a place of authenticity? How might we use the body, the breath, the voice? How do we explore those tools? Because those are the only tools we have as actors to actually translate information into performance. Like those
Yeah.
are that's the surface in which our performance is read. So if I really know how to explore my voice and use my voice can do a lot of that emotional conveyance for me. But I have
Hmm.
to be willing to try to explore what happens when I'm pitching my voice differently, when I'm breathing really differently. So, what my body language can offer me. So, summer jams, rather than really, again, directing our focus to the product of the scene, we're going to use that scene or that prompt as an invitation to explore how can I convey that through the body?
Yeah.
How my voice, what happens to my voice in a state of extreme grief or anger or fear, or what happens to the breath? And so we'll be doing some really targeted exercises that are about exploring the toolkit that we have as actors, as well as linking physicality to emotional expression. We'll be looking at impulse work. Um, so a lot of like looking at the practical, how do I achieve that? And what do I have already going for me? And what are some ways in that work for me? You know,
Yeah.
some people might be like, if I change my breathing, I can access my emotional range. Other people might need to work from an image. They might need to personalize. So we'll be looking at multiple ways in when it comes into like emotional range or tools that you can try to see what does that open up for you. Because some tools are going to work for someone and not someone else. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can. Someone's taping a horror audition, like right.
I I was gonna say I feel like we should just let everybody know that
Yeah, like
we're
just
in. Yeah,
guys,
it's the studio. People are
there's
acting.
coaching
No
happening
one's dying for real.
right beside which people are really accessing. So happy for her that she is just fully screaming about demons.
She's basically in a summer jam over
She's
there.
summer jamming, right? Um,
Perfect promo.
perfect. Yeah, I was like, is that like Zoom where you guys can't hear that? No, you can hear that. Yeah. So So they do in the sense that we will be specifically looking at exercises that are going to help actors find access points into their voice, into breath, into impulse work, into finding spontaneity. We'll be working like outside of the frame. We're not going to be working on camera as much because, you know, I always say, like, you know, as people, the last thing we want to do usually is like cry in public.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we've lived for decades. Our body and psyche has kind of trained us to not do that, right?
Yeah,
And then we get up in front of a room full of people with lights and a camera on us. And of course, we're not going to be able to necessarily access the vulnerability we could in the safety of our own, you know, private space in our home
yeah,
because we have decades of muscle memory and defense mechanisms keeping us safe,
yeah.
right? So the work is, you know, acting is very personal, it's very intimate, it's very vulnerable. And so we have to be working with the parts of ourselves that might feel uncomfortable expressing ourselves, you know, screaming. Like I'm like, again, I'm so glad the person in there coaching next to me letting loose there. I felt fully confident. But yeah, right? Not everyone, you know, I remember when I got my first horror movie audition and it was like, she lets out a blood curdling scream. And I was like, oh, I feel a bit funny doing that. Like, I feel a bit embarrassed
Yeah.
to do that. But like, I have to get over that. I have to get over my own fear of embarrassment in order to
Yes.
portray the truth of that moment. Right. And
Yeah.
so Summer Jams is also about creating a space for us to be really honest about, like, I feel fake when I do that, or it feels like icky, or I can't commit because I don't want to be embarrassed. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's actually just us limiting us.
Exactly. I love this because I think every single person
can relate to that. Like you said with the horror movie audition, I remember my first one, I was like, I can't scream. I don't know how to scream.
Yeah.
But it was just me holding myself back. Um, and then somebody told me as well, like, the more uncomfortable you feel, the better it actually looks. Because you're just like, just going for it.
Yeah.
But that takes a lot of courage to be able to do that, especially like you said, when you're not in the safe space of your home or your bedroom or your living room, whatever. To be in front of other people doing that is scary. But we need to learn how to do it as actors because that's all we're doing all the time.
And our goal isn't to say like I'm never going to be nervous, right? Like I always say to actors,
Yeah, of course.
like you're going to be nervous in your whole career. You're going to be
Yep.
nervous different, you get the job. You're going to be nervous to go on
Yep.
set, meet strangers and hope you're doing a good job and feel like you fit in. So also what we'll look at in summer jams is what are some supportive practices that we can have as actors that we can help that can help us in those situations where, oh my gosh, I have a chem test or I'm going in for my director's session. I'm so nervous. I need to get
Mm-hmm.
grounded. How do I do that?
Yeah.
How do I rest? How do I
Yeah.
work inside of my nerves rather than under the delusion that I can make them go away?
Yeah.
Because
How can you use them? Because they can help you. I
they can
think
help you,
they,
absolutely.
yeah.
So it will look at kind of everything around that goes into scene study.
Yeah.
Focus, breath work, impulse work, spontaneity, play, giving yourself permission, as well as giving actors some tools to really discover how do I access my power or my status or my vulnerability? How do I do that in a way that feels authentic and something I can replicate, right? Because you can't just be like, oh, I hope I'm really sad on the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're shooting
Exactly.
for 6 months, like you need to be able to get into those states easily. And then also, what are some supportive practices that help you get out of those states so that you can still be yourself and be in your life and not be like, I'm doing this dark project for a month and I have to be messed up or, I have to be, our own mental health as performers is extremely important.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's to look at everything that helps us then be fully equipped to go into our scene work.
Brilliant. Brilliant. That sounds amazing. So Susanna, who can take these summer jams? I know we're talking about what the heck these are, but who are these for?
They're really for actors at pretty wide range of level of ability right now. Because again, as I said, actor blocks are not something that is specific to a beginner actor or an intermediate actor. Every single actor is going to have their own areas that are difficult
Yeah.
for them, or their strengths, their weaknesses, what's in their wheelhouse, what isn't.
Yeah.
So something I'm also really excited about is this is an opportunity for actors if they're actors training at the studio from a CA2 level and up, to be able to train with me as well. Because usually I'm only teaching at the very advanced level, the master level. So this is an opportunity for intermediate level actors all the way to master level actors, to work with me, to meet other actors at the studio, other actors at their level, and really be in a group of actors who are all on board for doing this kind of exploratory work, which creates a really great sense of community for the class, right? We're all coming ready to like take some risks and to be honest about where we're at and learn together and risk being embarrassed.
Yeah.
And it makes it a lot easier when you are like, oh, we've all got skin in the game.
Yeah.
So I'd say if you're new to the studio, if you haven't trained at the studio, then I would love to see a resume. I would love to see a headshot, and I would love to see like a quick, like 1.5 to 2 minute bit of footage just so I can see where you're at. And then we have them in two levels right now. We have Summer Jams Advanced and we have Summer Jams Master. And so Summer Jams Advanced is more for our, intermediate level actors who have been doing scene study for a while. They know that they've got a good understanding of how to apply their work to a scene, but they're still working on building that range. And then Summer Jam's Master is for professionally working actors, actors who have been through, let's say a whole theater school program and they have enough knowledge about themselves as actors to know what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses. Self-reflection is going to be a big part of this work. It's going to be about being able to do a self-diagnostic and be really aware of, I've been auditioning for a couple of years. I struggle with roles like this, or I know that I cringe every time my agent wants to send me up for horror or for, grieving someone who loses someone, right? So you have to know enough about yourself already to know where you feel limited, in order for me to also be able to observe your work, and then for us to collaborate on what are the best paths forward for you. And a willingness to jump in and play, and, actors who have a sense of partnered work, right? Like they're not just an audition context. So yeah, if you want to take one of these courses, then really just apply to the studio, send us some footage, send us a little blurb about why you think this is right for you. And I'm like so excited to see people's work.
Yes, I'm really excited to see where these courses take everybody, because like we said, it's so different from the typical core training, and everything is just, I think everybody can relate to, every actor, and working in those private moments and trying to, get over your actor blocks and things like that. I think literally every single actor is constantly going to be working on this stuff, and having training that's specifically focused on that is going to be really, really exciting. So lastly, Susanna, just to kind of tie everything in together, what will actors take away from these courses? And specifically, how do these jams kind of encourage risk taking and working unconventionally for actors?
Well, I think because we are going to be playing games, we are going to be doing exercises, we're going to be doing physical exercises, we're going to be exploring our voices, what they're capable of. We're going to be exploring breath work. We're going to be exploring improvisation. We're also exploring a quick unit on how to approach comedy, because a lot of people feel like I know how to approach a dramatic scene and I get totally weirded out. Like, what are my ways in for comedy? Comedy is a great thing to practice and to explore because of its emphasis on play and partner dynamic and the sense letting go of your choices and giving over to the spontaneity of a scene. So we'll definitely be touching on comedy a bit. What actors will take away is really a chance to spend some focused work looking at where they are limiting themselves. And to gently and curiously examine, why am I stopping myself? Because if we don't become aware of whatever story we're telling ourselves about something, we can never change that habit. Right? So we need to take the time to look quite deeply at ourselves and go, oh yeah, I'm deeply afraid of being embarrassed. And that's stopping me from really going for it in my work. So potentially my fear of embarrassment is stopping me from booking a job, from making a big choice, for me actualizing my dream. And because I'm afraid of feeling a little bit uncomfortable for a short amount of time. Again, it's like we're not going to be doing this deep exploratory work and now the camera's on you. Right? We're doing certain exercises off camera, and then we will then challenge when we feel ready. We'll be like, great, let's take it into the frame. Let's apply that to a scene, right? Let's see if we can bring that emotional truth into this moment, right? And that means working unconventionally. That means working, with a different relationship to the frame, to our partners. I think above all, I want to give actors empowerment to be able to own their work and to be able to, at the same time, let go of their work. we're in such a product driven moment in the industry because self-tapes have normalized the audition process. And it's wild. I used to go in a room and I only knew my work from the inside. And I didn't like I just had to trust that what I was doing and what it felt like from the inside was reading in the frame. And I think we've lost that a lot because actors are they just do something and then they're watching their own playback and they become micromanagers and they become like obsessed over tiny beats that are like kind of irrelevant, and a lot of life is lost because they're thinking about what it looks like rather than trying to achieve their character's target. So I want to bring back a sense of trusting our instincts as performers and letting the impulses arise in the frame as they are actually truly happening, rather than actors getting stuck in like pre-planning and then just executing an audition.
Yeah.
That feels kind of dull and it feels lifeless. And a lot of casting directors are talking about this problem of like overcooked tapes because people take 17. So I think empowerment, I want people to come away with more courage in their work, a greater sense of confidence, and a greater sense of making a choice that they feel excited to play.
Yeah.
Not because they think it's what casting wants, but because it's what they instinctually get from putting themselves truly in the character's situation. So I mean, I want people to feel more free and more confident and less afraid.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we're less afraid on the mark, our choices have a wildness and an excitement to them that I want to watch.
Yeah.
I can tell the difference between an actor operating from a place of like fear and censorship and an actor who is like, I'm going to see what happens when I do this in pursuit of a want. And that's freedom and permission makes that actor's work always more compelling than an actor that's worried about doing it right.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. So kind of taking all of that, these jams are going to be absolutely amazing and I think very, very important for everybody to encourage, you know, that risk taking, working unconventionally, finding your blocks, and like you said, spontaneity and freedom and being confident and not being afraid. So I'm really excited that these are being offered this summer. I know we kind of labeled this as like your summer breakthrough, which I think is very accurate. This training is very different and very focused on really key pieces in actors' performances and things like that, and just being able to, like you said, let loose. So just to let everybody know, like you said, there's 2 levels. There's advanced and a master level. The advanced only has 1 spot left, so run and get your spot. That's going to be July 11th to August 29th. And then Summer Jams Master is a day before, so July 10th to August 28th. And overall, we're just really excited to see everybody take on these jams and jam together and find new things about their work and open up and be free and just have a safe space to be able to explore these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think demystifying, like I love when actors are just up front, like it's cool if an actor's like, I can't cry on camera. I'm like, I can teach you some ways to try to do that. I've, helped a lot of people go from I could never cry on camera to now I'm crying on camera, or I can access that part. And it's not about like,
I'm one of them because of you.
Let's just get all you have to cry, right? There are other ways, there are other things, but I want actors to feel like they can do anything. I don't want actors to have that like, ooh, I hope I don't have to, like, I don't want the scene to call for something like this because I feel insecure about it.
Yep.
So I want as much as possible for people coming to this training to know that the emphasis is going to be about being really real with where we're at, where we want to be, and then daring ourselves to work unconventionally to see how much can become possible when we take our eye off of like must execute the scene, and we invite that playfulness back into what can a game of tag teach me about acting? What
Yep.
can a grounding exercise teach me about presence? What can a memory exercise teach me about personalization? So I think that it's so easy sometimes when we're so fixated, we're staring at a scene, right? That we lose a sense of how big the world is and how many ways there are to approach something, and that at the end of the day we're just playing a human being who has a problem, and
Mm-hmm.
we're all beings and we know what it is to have problems, so we
Yep.
actually already have all the tools that we need. So I'm really excited. This is the first time I have kind of created this training, and it's really come directly from the things that actors who are working with me already need. So I really recommend, if you are feeling like stuck in acting, if you're feeling uninspired, if you're feeling like I don't get joy from this, or I don't know how to, I know I keep getting the same note. I really, really encourage people to step into this training and just shake up what they're doing and their way in.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. Get ready to jam with Susanna. It's going to be very, very fun. And it's going to be really exciting as well to be in the space with other people doing the exact same thing, just working on breakthroughs and being free and being not afraid to make choices, which is going to be really exciting to work with yourself, Susanna, as well as the peers around you. So, with all of that being said, you can head over to our website and, like Susanna mentioned, send in a little clip of some work that you've been doing, your headshot resume, kind of things like that. And then, yeah, we'll go from there and we'll get jamming this summer. And I'm really excited for everybody to kind of step into this and to be offering this new type of training. It's going to be really, really great for everybody.
Awesome. That's
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Susanna. And if
good.
anybody has any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. And like I said, one spot left in the advanced. So
Hop
don't
on it.
think about it. Just go. All right. Thank you so much, Susanna. And we're excited to jam with you all very soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.